Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Bunny 3000. We are back as we are always every single Tuesday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We are here to break things down for you. I am one of your hosts, Bunny 3000, along with my fellas here, as you can see below me, my boy Shawn Heartbreak Kid Richards.
What's up, people?
And of course, to my left, right, it's Esteban. How's it going, homie?
Hey, it's your fellow here.
Yeah, that what he said also as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great show for you today. I know I did not say our tagline because, I'm getting older, so I forget to do things like that, because here at Shaded Pixels Podcast, we break things down to the shadings and pixels, topic by topic. I probably messed that up as well, but whatever, you know what we do. This is where you lock it. This is what we do. Thank you for being here. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a journey. We all know about how amazing, well, most of us, I don't have it yet, about how amazing the Spider-Man video game is. It has definitely overshadowed a lot of recent releases over the past few months, and it was one of those that lived up to the buzz and still has people talking about it. So, in the spirit of that energy and that buzz, we decided that for tonight's episode, we were going to talk about licensed games. And I'm not certain exactly how we want to go about it. Do we want to start off and talk about a few in the past that we liked and then proceed on to ones that we think they should do?
I think
we want to go that route.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Okay. Yeah, kick us off, Shawn. What do you think, man?
So I was one of the lovely people that played Spider-Man PlayStation 4. I'm one of the many people that have platinumed it. You can watch a full review on it on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ShawnStudios.
Way to
cheap
go.
right there.
Nice.
Not cheap at all.
But in terms of licensed games, I think they get a bad rap, mostly because you've got a lot of publishers out there that will see a license, see that name recognition, and will just shovel it and push it out on whatever hardware is available, usually the Wii. That console still gets Just Dance support. I don't care. It's still living for some reason. But it's one of those that, you will find the diamonds in the rough. You will find the Spider-Man PlayStation 4. You will find the Spider-Man 2 tie-in. You'll find your GoldenEye, which I think a lot of people see as, more people know about GoldenEye the game than they do GoldenEye the actual movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things out there. Granted, you pick up a licensed game, more than likely you are going to get something that is shovelware trash. But every once in a while, you get a developer like Insomniac, like Rockstar, that will pick up that license, look at it, cherish it, hold it close to their hearts and say, don't worry, we got you.
And then they take it out for dinner, and then they take it to a movie, and then they buy it some milk chocolates.
Hey, let's keep it PG. Okay, PG-13.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Okay, PG-13.
And that's fine with me. People in PG-13 movies are having sex still.
That's very true. It's very dark, though.
Oh, yeah. You know what? One of the biggest examples, I think, is the Walking Dead license. Last week, we talked about how Telltale, left a legacy for adventure games. And one of the things that they had was multiple licenses, including The Walking Dead. They took the Walking Dead license and they said, don't worry, we'll make a great game. We will do justice to the license. And then you have, I forgot what the name of the developer was, but it was published, I think, by EA, and it was The Walking Dead Survival Instinct. I think it was.
Oh, right. I remember
It
that
was
game.
the first-person shooter that did not do well, was shoddy, and was pushed out. Same license, two different developers. One decided to actually do something and be creative, and the other one said, nah, they'll buy it anyway.
I remember the commercial was just being like, Moral and Earl, you can't ask for anything more. Like, that was it. That was the whole push. They knew that what they were doing. It was like, look, we have the characters from the show, so you're gonna
the show's popular. Let's make some money.
Ooh, let's do this.
And that didn't work.
No.
Especially because it was released after The Walking Dead, the Telltale one.
Yeah. I think that's not always the case. I mean, look at Alien. Alien had Aliens Colonial Marines, which was a piece of a game.
Oh, dumpster fire.
I still don't hate that game as much as everybody else. Not that it's good.
God, I hate
I'm
that
not saying
game.
it's good, but it's not a dumpster fire. It's just a normal bad
Look,
game.
The reason why I consider it a dumpster fire is because of my extreme affinity for the Aliens movie.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
when the words that I can't even get out my mouth, when the dumpster fire came out, it took me literally 15, 20 minutes, and I was like, I want my money back. Take this piece of garbage. Just no, I don't care if you patch it. I don't care if you DLC it to high heaven. It's gone. I'm never touching this, never watching this. Just no. Complete no.
But BJ, what'd you think of Alien Isolation?
You know, I feel really bad because I've had Alien Isolation for at least 3 years. Yeah, 3 years? Yeah, 3 years, I think. And I haven't played it yet.
Oh.
It's just mainly because I've heard enough about it from people that have played it that love it and say that it is one of those games that's kind of like, not quite like Dead Space, but kind of like it gets your adrenaline rushing, and you play it right in the right way, it will kind of jump scare you a bit. So I'm like saving it up for like the right moment, and I haven't figured out when the right moment is. I really want to play it. I just haven't broke down
Halloween,
and actually
man.
done.
Halloween's coming up.
That's true.
What I'm talking about, and that's
true.
what I'm talking about.
That is very true. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I'm avoiding Alien Isolation. I have it because I think they gave it. I think they gave it away for free. Yeah,
They probably did.
That's the only way I should have the game, and I know I have it. That's the only reason why I would have that game, because it's a horror game, and it's scary. So no, thank you.
Yeah, man.
I can't deal with that. And I've seen like parts of the game and like how it's supposed to scare you and everything. And I'm like, nope, nope, nope.
But even with that, even staying on, and I know we're kind of beating this like a dead horse, but staying on the same Aliens topic, one of my fave games from back in the day was Aliens versus Predator, which I thought.
Which one? Because there's several games named that.
Well, the first person shooter version. I like the arcade version as well, but the first person shooter version that was on PC, I was very, very impressed by when it came out. I mean, it doesn't 100% age well, just because it's the first person shooting graphics, but I think the core of what was Aliens in that game was pretty well done at the time.
Okay, I'm thinking of a different game. I think I was thinking of the game that came out in like 2010 that was made by Sega.
Oh no, I don't even know what that one was. Okay. I didn't see that one. I'm talking about the PC version that did really, really well.
Okay.
Because that one allowed you to play as a Colonial Marine, a Predator, or an Alien.
Yeah, so did the 2010 one, but
yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, sometimes stuff like that doesn't transfer over well.
Yeah.
but on
Okay.
PC it was good. It won a bunch of, I think it like won awards when it came out and everything, and it was fun. It was for the time when it came out. It was also scary. I love that game.
There was a beat 'em up of Alien vs Predator.
Yep,
That's the one.
there was a beat 'em up for. There was a beat 'em up / shooter. Well, it was more so shooter for Aliens also. So there was Aliens versus Predator.
Yeah.
And I think there was one more.
Trilogy. That was a shooter.
Yeah,
but Aliens vs Predator is like a side-scrolling beat 'em up / running gun because you could beat 'em up or shoot them if you were the Colonial Marine.
Right, and then if you were the Predator, you could do both. You could beat them up and then use the little gun when you picked up the gun, that kind of thing. Yeah,
either Predator, because I believe there were two different types of Predators and there was two different humans, Colonial Marines, and then
one of the Colonial Marines was doing like Street Fighter fireballs or whatever. It was hilarious.
And it was completely over the top and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed that.
It's weird because I was going to say from the very beginning of the podcast, Shawn, you say licensed games get a bad rap, but I'm like, I remember all the crap that I had to deal with when I was a kid and everything. But then we spent like all this time talking about good games.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I think a lot of gamers' heartburn when it came to licensed games came from, I don't even want to say the early years, but I guess you could say the early years of gaming, starting with E.T. So, starting with E.T. and then going all along the line. I mean, there were a couple of X-Men games on the NES. I think there was like one NES game. No, it was on I think it's on both the NES and or the Genesis or something like that.
The Genesis.
I mean, there were a few games for a lot of different, that were licensed for a lot of different systems back then that just were, they were just like, okay, yeah, you stuck the name just so you could have the box out there. And when people played the game, they were like, okay, this is garbage. Or it was like a copy of another type of game just with, characters skinned in there to be.
Batman Forever played exactly like Mortal Kombat, which was a huge mistake.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I just want to clear out the air right now. I'm going to borrow something from Esteban's book right now. E.T. for 2600 is not that bad. It's not good, but considering the circumstances around it, the fact that it was made in 6 weeks and it was rushed out.
Hated that game. I played that game back in the day, and look, I was at that time. I had no problem with not knowing what was going, because that was the way things were back then. You didn't know what was going on in the game. You got thrown into it, and you had to figure out what the heck was going on. I mean, I played Adventure for hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how to beat the game. I never did, but I still loved it. No, I take that back. I did beat that game. I take that back. I did beat that game. But I was used to that. But, dude, when I got freaking E.T., I was I didn't even get it. I think I played it at like a friend's house or something like that. They had it, and I swear I could not. That was. I'm
gonna meet both of you somewhere in the middle with this. I don't think E.T. is a good game. I think it is a dumpster fire, but I don't think it's the worst game ever made, because at least
it's hard to say what the worst game ever made is. There's a lot of bad games out there, and because games change from time to time, it's hard to say which one is the worst of all time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean the worst game ever made is probably like some random crap that's on Steam right now that we've never even heard of that barely functions. It's probably like some game where it's like press enter. And you press enter, and it's like, oh, you pressed the wrong enter on your keyboard, so now we're gonna fill your computer with viruses or something.
Yeah, something weird like that.
Yeah.
It's probably whatever that game was when they sold it to people, but in the background of the game, it was using their computer to do what was it, cyber Bitcoin mining.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ugh. That's a pretty bad game. So people were all upset because it was making their computer the CPU was just going crazy and they were sending messages to them. And then later on, somebody found out that's because they were using their computer processing power to Bitcoin mine for, the developer.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah.
That is.
But I will say, I think licensed games get a bad rap. I think that's on purpose, even when I was a kid, I can think of, good games that were licensed and actually had stuff good about them. The original Simpsons game on the arcade, that was a great game, even though it didn't really have too much to do with the show.
Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Arcade
Turtles in Time, the original one.
Classic. Yeah. The same thing for the X-Men arcade game. Classic.
Yeah, that's a classic one.
They were almost the same kind of game, but still.
Something that's very interesting is kind of like a parallel to what's happening right now with Spider-Man, where a major, console publisher has taken it, amongst themselves to get this game out there. There were a lot of great Disney games from Sega, published by Sega back in the day.
Yeah.
Yes, there were.
Castle of Illusion, Quackshot, World of Illusion. Those were all really good games. Huh?
DuckTales.
That was Capcom.
I don't know if that was the right age, but that's the only one. That's the only Disney one I remember.
Yeah. No, that was NES and Capcom. But that's that's not the Sega thing that I'm talking about, but those are good games, and Capcom really nailed it with DuckTales and Darkwing Duck and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And then
you can make me cry.
And then the Super Nintendo came, and they were fine, but I don't know.
Yeah, there were a lot of just blah games on the Super Nintendo era. It was just like
people really love Aladdin. People really love that game. I always liked the Genesis one more.
Yeah.
Because to me, the Super Nintendo, it's fine, but it was
just bad.
There.
I don't know.
I never got into that discussion because,
that's true. There's a lot of people who say that the Super Nintendo version is better than the Genesis version and vice versa. I'm the one who lands on the Genesis side. It's also worth saying that the Genesis version of Aladdin is actually one of the best-selling games on the console. I think it sold 5 or 6 million copies.
Better than Alex Kidd?
Gasp.
Yeah. But no, they still did a bunch of really good games. But it's just, I think Capcom had this right earlier with the NES games and stuff like that. But they were still really good. They had a series of Mickey Mouse games on the Super Nintendo that weren't bad. Magical Quest, where Mickey was dressed up in different costumes and they gave him different powers. Those were those. Let me see what else. Let me see. I think Capcom lost the license after Aladdin, because I think the next ones like The Lion King and Toy Story were made by somebody else. But those games were interesting. I never really liked Lion King. The first stage is whatever, and then you get to the second stage, and then you can't get past all the giraffes because it's a puzzle, and you're like, fuck this, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I didn't even get into a lot of the Disney games around that time. That's what my mom wanted me to play whenever we went to the store to get something. She'd be like, "Oh, why don't you get?" No, Mom, I want Star Wars. I want da 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 da. Yeah. So I bypassed all that.
And then Toy Story was interesting, but for different reasons. Lion King was just kind of boring. Toy Story, I think they actually did want you, BJ, to be buying that game because that game has 15 different genres in it.
It sounds about right.
There's a first-person shooter.
I think I might have tried that because I heard
there is a Toy Story. I think a Toy Story Racer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there is a Toy Story. there's a racing level in that game. I think several of them, and then they're all from different perspectives. One's top down, one's like a third person, and that game is weird. There's one that's a runner. There's two different runner stages actually. There's one where you're running on Rex and you're trying to run away from the other toys. And then there's another one where you're riding on one of those weird ass toys from Sid's house that's like a skateboard, and you're running away from the dog.
Okay. Yep.
I don't. Are you familiar with the story of Toy Story, the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay. Do you remember the dog?
Yeah, the Slinky dog.
No, not the Slinky dog.
No,
not the Slinky dog.
The
dog, the real dog that was running around after the toys.
Yeah, that one. That's you're riding on. I don't even remember its name, but it's it's a skateboard, but it has a head on it because Sid put it on there because he's a sick bastard.
Right.
And you're riding on that and running away from the real dog.
From the real dog. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta do something, right?
Yeah. I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, God damn, that was a weird ass game.
And I mean, they tried it. I mean, I think that, kind of to your point, I think the issue is when there are TV shows or movies that are big and popular and have a lot of buzz. For the longest time, gamers have always been excited to play the game that has to do with the movie.
Yeah.
Be it Street Fighter, the movie, any of the Batman movies, or, anytime there's a movie that does well, or just a movie period that has a game, people kind of get excited because of the license. They get more invested in it. So when it comes out and it's not good, or it's garbage, or not necessarily even unplayable, but it's just
mediocre,
confusing, or like if it's mediocre and it was a huge hit in the movie theater, then that automatically makes it in the gamer's mind one of the worst games ever, because it's so far away from the excellence that the movie or the TV show was. Yeah. So if it was like a Star Trek game or something like that was mediocre, you best believe Trekkies are going to be like, this is a dumpster fire of a game.
Yeah, that's fair.
It doesn't capture the essence of Jean-Luc Picard. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's fair, and it's, especially like with something like a movie, you're expecting like, oh, the movie was cool. All you got to do is make it so that I can play out what happened in the movie. Just copy that; it's already done for you, right?
Exactly. That's why so many of the Star Wars games. That's why so many of the Star Wars games have either been excellent or have just been like, oh my God, what is this? It's one or the other. It's hardly ever in the middle when it comes to Star Wars games.
Shadows of the Empire.
I love that game. I loved that game when it came out. It doesn't age well, but I loved that game.
Are you sure? Because everyone remembers the first mission. Yes. Because you're the TIE fighter going around and flying, and you have to take down the AT-ATs, and everyone's like, oh, this is so awesome. And then stage 2 comes around, and you're walking around with this funky looking dude. And
I loved that game. I loved it. I really did. And that's in part because I think part of me was more interested in the story that it was supposed to portray.
Yeah.
So I wanted to play
extended universe stuff.
Yeah. It was like not necessarily even alternative universe, but it was, it was in canon.
Not alternative, extended.
Extended. Yeah. So it was like, I really wanted to see what's going to happen. It was playable. It was one of the first games that I had on my Nintendo 64. So it was, it was one of those that was memorable for me because it was one of the first ones that I had on the system. Yeah. And it had John Williams music, so I was happy. I was like, this is great.
That's true.
I'm telling you, if they didn't have John Williams music in that game, then it would have been a dumpster fire. Because that's basically out half of the game for a Star Wars game.
Yeah.
Get a Star Wars game and it doesn't have John Williams music, you've already lost the battle.
I will say that even with there being some games like back then that were pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
there hasn't been the amount of attention to detail and the amount of, well, quite frankly, budget put into games like they have been now for licenses. Specifically ever since Batman Arkham Asylum. What do you think?
When did Arkham Asylum come out?
2009.
2009.
You know, it's hard to say.
I'm not saying that there was nothing but bad games before that, but it's just the amount of polish that game had, and the budget and all that. Like, it was a blockbuster title. There wasn't really a blockbuster licensed game before that. They were mostly just cash-ins, and then for the
There
most part,
were. I mean, I'm not certain in terms of sales because I mean, there's always been Star Wars games, and a lot of the Star Wars games have done relatively well before that.
well, yeah, but was that ever like the big holiday game or the big, AAA release for that year for a certain publisher? I mean, even technically, Batman Arkham Asylum wasn't that because they weren't entirely sure if this was going to work, but it did, and it blew up.
I think that remember there was one
Yes.
PS2 era.
Mm.
For the PS1 N64, I can only think of one that was more blockbuster-y, and I don't know if that even counts, and that was Spider-Man for the PlayStation 1. That was
the original one?
Yeah.
Huh. That's weird. I've never played that game.
I have. That was a lot of. I mean, that was basically
really
what
good.
the Spider-Man
really
game
good,
is
but...
now. That game was, just doing the Spider-Man stuff in that game was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot of fun.
Okay,
but
was it that?
How close was that to the Incredible Hulk game? That was just before the Incredible Hulk game, right?
No, that was a different console generation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That came out before the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah,
because Incredible Hulk was like the very first Xbox.
Oh, are we talking about Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction?
Yes.
That was either 2004 or 2005.
Yeah, because that was PS2.
Yeah, PS2, GameCube, and I think the original Xbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I've played that game. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's fun.
Oh
I
my
wouldn't
gosh!
call that a blockbuster though.
Oh, it definitely wasn't a blockbuster. It was just a lot of fun. It was more fun than I thought. It was one of those games where it was more fun than originally expected.
And more importantly, and this is the other thing, it was not meant to be a blockbuster. I don't think that game had the budget to be like, hey, make sure this is the biggest selling game of the holiday season or whatever. I don't think it was ever meant to be that.
I think that Arkham Asylum was that game since GoldenEye came out for the N64, because that wasn't just a shovelware title. That was developed by Rare, and Rare was an accomplished publisher because they had the other games before that. They had Donkey Kong 64. They had Banjo-Kazooie under their belt, so they were an accomplished developer. So putting, you said, oh, here's this movie license game. It's fine. It's based off of James Bond. I really don't care. It's made by Rare. Give it to me.
That might be the exception. I think maybe that's the exception right there, GoldenEye. I mean, personally, I've never liked that game, but
loved that game. Oh my gosh,
those controls are awful.
Well, that's because the controller was awful.
They were
bad. The controller was like one of the worst controllers known to man, but that game was fun.
Yeah, I agree with BJ. The controls are bad because the controller is bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't argue with that because you're right, but
I mean that's what you have to work with. But given that's what you had to work with, and the fact that it was still a lot of fun, is a testament to the game.
I've never ever been able to control that game ever. Ever. The only way I was able to control it was actually The remake.
Reloaded.
I was wrecking shop on GoldenEye. Me and my sister would have like speed runs to see how fast we could get through certain levels and stuff like that. And we would play and replay that game so much. That was so much.
If I'm playing that game, I'm the one running into the wall because I cannot move that guy right and like reliably. I've tried, but the 360 version isn't terrible for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just it's kind of one of those things. It's kind of past its prime.
Yeah,
it's trying to recreate what was back then when you've already got so many other good first-person shooters back then. You know, around that time period is just like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is okay. Yeah, okay.
I mean, there's. But I do think that Shawn's right. I think that's probably the one exception.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of games where I'm sure they spent a decent amount of money on the game, developing the game, and there were buzz before the game came out, and then when the game came out, just like, you know what I mean? There's been plenty of those where there was buzz around the licensed title, and then when the licensed title came out, it was either bad or just mediocre to the point where people were like, "This is such a disappointment," you know. I think that's the thing.
How about that one game where they were trying to make the game and then also launch the comic book with it at the same time?
PUBG?
No, that was them trying to launch a game and a TV show at the same time.
Game and
comic.
What was game and the comic at the same time?
Yeah.
Are you talking about Drake of the 99 Dragons?
You goddamn right I am.
God damn it.
I missed that boat altogether.
You know what, Esteban? I'm going to raise you one other licensed game that they wanted to make a blockbuster. Failed so hard that they have not used that particular license alone ever since.
The suspense is killing me, man. What the deuce?
What is it?
Superman.
Say word.
There's so many Superman games, and God, is there any good ones? I mean, Superman 64 is the one that everyone likes to point out as being terrible, but that's not the only one.
Because that's one of the only ones where it's just
the one that basically killed the license.
Yeah,
there was another
the only ones I know
that.
that was. I can't think of any other just Superman game.
Superman Returns. They made a licensed game for that movie.
Well,
the final boss is a goddamn tornado.
Look, that was not a game. After the other Superman game came out, it was like nobody else was going to take any kind of chances on a Superman game after that.
Yeah,
by itself. So that's the only reason why I didn't even know that game existed.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's one of those things. But I mean, to your point, most of the times that people have been upset or disappointed about licensed games, it's been centered around superheroes. If you think about it,
yeah.
You know, I mean, there was a time period, I want to say maybe in the 90s, late 80s, when every single 80s movie that came out had a video game, and more than likely it was bad. Because I remember playing a version of a Predator game on the PC that was absolutely confusing, because you know it was one of those games where, you know, back then every video game that you played basically wanted to take you exactly through a lot of the scenes in the movie. So a lot of the times you were trying to figure out, okay, what happened in the movie so I can get past this damn level. And a lot of times it wasn't always very clear how to do that, given the controls or given the limits of whatever perspective the game was in. Yeah. And that Predator game was one of them. It was almost like, I can't even remember the game that it was like, but it's almost like having a character that's constantly running throughout the entire game. And if you stay in one scene too long, the predator ends up killing you or whatever. So it's like you have to make certain you have to get and move across the screen in the right way, or else the predator kills you in that one screen or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean that's what I remember from bad licensed games during that time.
I remember there being a lot of NES games, licensed games, that were made from R-rated movies that were intended for kids.
Yes.
Total Recall.
That was that's one of those things as well.
RoboCop.
R-rated games. Yes. RoboCop.
But I think we're gonna have to take a break and talk more about this. So.
Yes. When we come back, though, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about games that we wish they would make from movie and TV licenses that haven't been made yet or haven't been made well yet. So, just like all of my co-hosts said, make sure you keep it locked right here. We're going to take a break. See you in a bit. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here. We're talking licensed video games. And in the first half of our show, if you weren't with us, we kind of went over some of the bad licensed games and even some of the good licensed games that we've seen in our past. But we're going to work the gears in your medulla oblongata, or whatever the hell that little pink matter that is in your skull is called today. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen.
Brain.
We're going to try to get that. We are going to try to discuss TV shows and movies. Okay, let's not just keep it a TV show. TV shows and movies that we think would make good, that need good video games.
Can we also
So
throw
if
in
there
comics?
are any game developers and game publishers tuning in, this is the part where you listen to us.
Yes, this is the part where you sponsor us, give us money, give us tips, give us all kinds of stuff, and then ask us to help you out.
Yeah. Yes. And then you pay us lots of money for our ideas.
Yes.
Yay, Hercules. Okay, who wants to go? Who wants to start first? Because I've got a bunch. So
is that your first one? Is Nutty Professor the first one?
Oh hell no! You could try, but I don't know. That's not what I was looking for.
The Nutty Professor video game made in the style of Katamari Damacy. You're just rolling
holy crap around. That might actually work. People love that Katamari Damacy. I've never played it, mind you, but people love it so much that might actually work.
I love that game. I love that game. And look, if not a Nutty Professor actual game, dude, just mod it. Just mod it. Just put them.
Stick Eddie Murphy all over it every time you squish up something, and then boom, you've got a hit.
Yep,
I can see it.
And then because we don't want Eddie Murphy anymore, you just throw him up into the cosmos, and he turns into a star.
If I could do Eddie Murphy's laugh, it'd be perfect.
Something like that.
It's close. Yeah. What about you, Shawn? What do you think?
All right. So we all know I have the best ideas for these games. So
clearly.
Oh, that's a challenge. That's a challenge. Come with it. Come with it, Heartbreak Kid.
All right. We take the license of porn. We have an entire genre of video format that has been untapped.
I think they've already done that. They have whole networks of video games that are based off porn and are porn already.
That's just over the entire genre. No, I'm talking about specifics. You dig into busting MILFs XXX37 and you make a game out of that.
I thought you were talking about like a Sasha Grey simulator or something.
I think they probably have that too.
Like you wake up, you brush your teeth, you go do a scene, then you get tired of it, and then you start acting in small roles in Hollywood.
Not that I know of such things,
and you
or have read about such things.
And you peak when you do a movie with Elijah Wood.
Ouch! No need to get nasty, okay?
He's an entirely wholesome actor. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I mean as in degrading.
No, Sasha Grey did a legitimate movie with Elijah Wood.
That's true. Yes,
it's real.
Very true.
Look what we've got.
I heard it wasn't bad.
These guys can't take y'all anywhere. Goodness.
hey, this was not my idea. My idea was the Nutty Professor Katamari Damacy thing.
But you ran with it like you were daggone football player or something. I don't know.
You with it.
You ran all the way like freaking water boy from one end zone to the other. Back and forth.
See, another license. There you go.
Look at Waterboy. It's gonna be the sequel to Root Beer Tapper.
Oh my god! That started.
Oh, I love this already.
All right,
ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry.
I'm so sorry it took this long to make a sequel to Root Beer Tapper. But we're bringing it back with a licensed movie from the 90s in 2018.
Dude, you could do it for 2018. The Brett Kavanaugh tales. Boom, Root Beer Tapper, the sequel. I like beer. I like beer. I
know. I'm the one with Root Beer Tapper. You're the one going with actual Tapper, and you gotta go there. Oh,
that's right.
You're just
Supreme
as bad
Court
as us.
confirmation. Boom! Root Beer Tapper 2. Supreme Court confirmations.
And with that, I'm out.
Shawn wins. Shawn gets the trophy for the night.
All right. For real though, there has been one license that's almost untapped in this market. There
I
have
He
get
said
been,
tap again. He did it. I'm sorry.
it.
Go
You
ahead.
did it.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
ladies and gentlemen, I would like to issue this a sincere and honestly sincere apology for my two co-hosts. They do not know how to compose themselves in a nice, professional manner.
It's not my fault.
Anytime I happen to mention a certain four-letter word, they just go off on the rails. From my heart,
Woosah. Woosah.
I apologize.
I'm composed. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm good. I'm good. All right, go ahead.
So anyway, one game that has been has kind of been untapped in the gaming market. People will say it's overrated. I don't care. I'm still a fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
Firefly.
I was gonna say that. Yes, that was on my list. Yes.
And there has been one that's like Firefly Online that's been in development hell, but I would like to see kind of more of a less of a Mass Effect but more of a strategy / adventure type game. Mesh those two genres together where you have the cargo ship because you don't have any weapons on it. You have to take it from place to place, interact with different characters, and sometimes you might have a confrontation. Sometimes you may avoid that depending on how your dialogue goes and what character.
I had that exact same thought, and the style of game that my mind instantly jumped to, and I'm not certain. I doubt either one of you have ever played this game, or anybody that's watching, unless you're as old as dirt like I am. Back in the day when SSI was making video games, they did a whole bunch of the Dungeons and Dragons style, games or whatever. And when they started trying to push themselves a little bit further than what they always did on their Dungeons and Dragons games, they had an awesome RPG that was a Buck Rogers RPG. And it kind of had that same concept that you're talking about, Shawn, where you kind of have your ship and you've got your shipmates that you have to outfit, and so you're doing missions outside of your ship as well as on the ship, and you're basically like a space pirate in a sense. So you have parts of the game where your ship is against the other ship and you have to make the decision on whether to destroy the ship or board the ship so that you can salvage what the ship has, so you can fix your own ship afterwards, all that other kind of stuff, on top of doing away missions on the planet. I'm not trying to bite Star Trek. Daggone it, don't even come at me like that with your licensed terminology or copywritten terminology. I don't know. But that's kind of what I envisioned in the same way, because that's kind of what Firefly is. It's that whole space pirate feel, to the game where, and I guess my thing would have been trying to figure out whether or not you would have wanted to actually be the crew or have your own crew and try to figure out ways to, basically just explore that whole universe as either your own crew or as the crew. I couldn't figure out in my mind which I would have rather have happen. But I guess based on the time frame back in the day, if it was like when it was around coming out, it probably would have been the crew. But nowadays, since you've got more tech, so much more video game genres that are morphing and connecting or whatever, you could definitely do one that was almost like an MMO or even like a Fallout or something like that, just completely open worldy, open university, or a Mass Effect almost a Mass Effect kind of thing. I could see that.
Yeah.
But yes, great selection. That was on my list. Yes. Oh, see, we there. We there. We there. All right, Esteban, what you got, man? What you got?
Well, mine's kind of easy just because I'm kind of pulling from a well that's been pulled from many times. It's a
Don't say
comic book.
Star Wars.
It's a
I'll kick
comic
you.
book, but it's for a character that you don't see a lot about. But it's a character that I've grown to really like over the past couple of years because I've been getting into its comic books. I would really like to see a Moon Knight game.
Fucking knew it. I fucking knew you were going to say Moon Knight.
Good choice.
I know he has like some similarities to Batman, and truth be told, in the game you could pull sort of from that, but I would
You write
like
the story well, and it's completely different.
yeah, you can have a completely different story, and because he Moon Knight is a comic book that's a little bit more aware that its protagonist is fucking crazy.
Yes. You
I
can
would,
definitely run with that, and that would be awesome.
yeah, and I would love for them to implement something like how they had in Eternal Darkness for the GameCube, where you have a sanity meter, and depending on whether or not you keep that high or low, it affects the presentation of the game, and that can be screwing around with you. Extra enemies, lower health, things where it just switches off your console, or at least it appears like it does.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that. Another thing also, though, is that with Moon Knight, he doesn't always stay in one place that much. Like, normally he's supposed to be kind of like in New York, but he's been to Los Angeles a lot, too. So I can see this game having maybe some sort of weird mechanic where you're not just stuck in one city, but you could actually be going back and forth between them, especially because Mark Spector is rich, so he has the means of being able to do that, just like Batman. So I would like to see that. I would like to also see incorporated maybe some more of the B or C tier heroes along with him, since he usually is around there, and they can be incorporated into the story. And I would love to see multiple endings, maybe even one where it turns out that there was actually no threat whatsoever, and it's all in his mind.
Yeah.
You know, so not the most original idea. I'd probably make it like sort of similar to like the Batman Arkham games. It'd be an action adventure game, and you go around, looking.
You could definitely make it its own entity, even though somebody like Rocksteady would probably knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
So in other words, it would probably be like an Arkham clone, but there would be enough changes to the formula thanks to the character where it would be its own thing, and it'd be able to kind of have its own identity and still just be fun. So
yeah, instead of having a big open world like Arkham has, you could have just like maybe 5 or 6 mini open worlds, like levels where you would have the different missions. Like maybe he goes through an Arkham one city, and then after that he moves on to the next one, and then you wouldn't have them be too big, save on the resources, but make them kind of like mini areas.
Maybe it's because I've been playing Yakuza Kiwami 2, but I would kind of like have it where you would be able to like, there wouldn't be a lot of big open maps, but there would be like a couple to maybe 3, maybe 4 that you can get to and travel to at will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Yakuza, you have Kumuro Chao and Sotenbori, which is different for that series. So there's like 2 places you get to go to, and I guess maybe that's what I'm thinking about now. Because again, this guy can go to different places and he does not stay in one spot. But it could be small because he doesn't patrol all of New York. He has his section of it.
Yep.
So, which is common for Marvel. Like I think Daredevil holds down Hell's Kitchen, and I think Spider-Man has Manhattan.
Yeah, kind of that whole, even to kind of leapfrog off of that whole area of some of the not even lesser known Marvel heroes, but some of the ones that haven't really gotten a lot of shine are really ripe for video game adaptations. You know, The Defenders, um, Blade. You know, there's a lot of them that they really haven't given any shine to in the video game world. By themselves. They probably had versions of them in like a Marvel vs. Capcom game, or, you know, some ensemble cast game, Ultimate Alliance or something like that.
Probably
But
Ultimate
just
Alliance, because I was just gonna say, actually, in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, no, none of the Defenders have been in there, which is actually weird now that I think about it.
are
Daredevil
you
has
sure
never
about
been
that?
in
They
there.
haven't had. I thought they had like Luke Cage in one of them or
No,
something. Didn't they? They didn't,
no,
or didn't they have Blade? I thought they had Blade in one of them, right?
no.
You sure?
I'm positive,
Could
man.
have sworn they had a Blade in one of them.
Not in Marvel vs. Capcom. Now that I think about it, it's really weird. And it's
Or
weird
maybe
because
it
they
was
have some
just
characters
maybe it
that are.
was just the maybe it was just one, not a Marvel versus Capcom. Maybe it was one of the Marvel superhero games where it was just all Marvel characters or something, or like
In a fighting game. No,
I, goodness, I
definitely
might have to
not,
look
dude.
that up. I gotta look that
I'm almost positive. Now Luke Cage and and Daredevil, they have been in video games,
up.
but not major ones. Like I know Luke Cage is in Spider-Man: Web of Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
But like a fighting game, and specifically a Marvel versus Capcom fighting game, or just any fighting game made by Capcom, no. And quite frankly, it's very strange. You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
it's, you know, it's just one of those things. You would think
Especially like
certain
Blade.
characters like that, it would be relatively easy to do.
Yeah, especially
You
like
know,
Blade. Now that you brought him up, I'm like, he would be
Blade
awesome in
would
a game like that.
exactly that game would have enough of its own universe with its own villains and stuff, just like a freaking Spider-Man game that are not necessarily relatively popular, but you could have a really meaty storyline behind. You know, he's got so many villains and stuff in his things, and there would be a bunch of other little characters you could bring in to do bit pieces here.
You could make it almost like a Devil May Cry Bayonetta action game.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That was, you know, it really surprised me, especially when they were doing the whole Blade trilogy, that was never breached. You know, the movies were did, you know, they did gangbusters. It was huge. So it was very surprising that they didn't go that route. I can understand nowadays that Marvel's a little gun shy about doing that with every property that they have, because they don't want to flood the market.
Yeah.
You know, because they recognize back in the day that's what used to happen. Every single TV show, or not even TV show, every single movie had to have a game. You know, it didn't have to have multiple, but it had to have at least one game. So, you know, it was one of those things where, oh yeah, it has to come out in this time frame. So developers hated it because the developers were given a short time frame, and they were like, hey, it has to come out when the movie comes out so that we can, you know, be able to get all that money at the same time.
Yeah.
And then if they missed that whole window or whatever, then they missed the window of all the buzz of the movie. And then the game, even if it was good, just wouldn't do the numbers because they missed the buzz of the movie.
You know, going off of what you were saying earlier, I don't know if this really applies because now we live in a world where Spider-Man has come out and it's done really well.
Mm-hmm.
But Batman did well because it wasn't tied to a movie, and they allowed the developers to just kind of do whatever they wanted, while at the same time getting people who knew what they were doing. So like they had, what's his name, Paul Dini, write the story.
I don't know the name. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but he was one of the one of the prolific comic book writers for Batman. And they had him write the story. And so like they got people who knew what they were doing, and then they were also allowed to do whatever they want, essentially. Now,
but
I would say
that's a bit easier to do, mainly because you've got so many additional storylines and ways to go about doing superhero video games than you do other properties.
And that also kind of happened with the Spider-Man game, because one of the writers of the Spider-Man video game was Dan Slott, who had the most recent run of Spider-Man, where
So he had stuff to pull from. So,
Yeah.
with that said, I've got one on my list that I'm sure both of you probably had in the back of your head, but we're just too not like BJ to even mention.
What you got for us?
Battlestar Galactica.
Nope.
Telling you, ladies and gentlemen, Battlestar Galactica is one of those properties that has been screaming for a good video game since the 70s.
Yeah, I was gonna say because there has been video games of it, but
a good one. But it's been screaming, and even since the recent TV show, it's been screaming for a good video. I mean, there's roughly been I've seen at least 3 Battlestar Galactica games come out since the TV show came out. There was one absolutely god awful little arcadey title that came out on the 360 that was garbage that I played. There was a MMO that was on PC, I think, that was kind of, I don't even know, it controlled horribly, but it was kind of like a click shoot kind of MMO thing where you could be a Cylon or you could be, you know, part of the whatever Federation. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they had, what was the third one? The third one was a recent one that they had, which is basically, if you've ever played the Homeworld strategy game, it was basically Homeworld skinned with Battlestar Galactica ships and Cylon ships and stuff like that. I forget exactly what it's called, but it came out like in the last year or so. I heard it was pretty decent. Okay. But you know, that genre is a very, very, you know, I want to say, I guess is the word niche I'm thinking of. The popularity for that genre is very.
Or is it like a 4X game?
No, it's like a strategy RTS kind of game.
Okay.
You know, it's very similar to kind of if you've ever played Homeworld, it's kind of that way.
Okay, yeah. That's fairly niche. I mean, you can't even it's really difficult to do that genre anywhere other than the PC, so yeah.
Right. And it's been so far removed from the popularity of the show that of course no one in their right mind would dump a crap ton of money into a strategy game with that licensed title right now. You know what I mean? I'm thinking more of a revival of the whole Wing Commander, you know, Star Citizen kind of approach where where you can be a Viper pilot or you could be, you know, any of the other kind of ships you could be a pilot, or you can, and it would probably be risky because I know they've tried this in another game before, but making the decision between being an officer or a fighter pilot, or, you know, having different roles or whatever, or even being a Cylon, that kind of thing. I mean, they tried that in the MMO kind of, sort of, and it didn't go over very well. It was almost like they took on too much, and then they put little almost mobile game sized games inside a PC game and slapped them all together, and it just did not work at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just feel like that property is ripe for something good in that way that they could do. It's probably way past its time. They'd have to reboot the show or the movie again in some way, shape, form, or fashion to really do it. But I just wish that would do it.
I've not had any experience with the franchise, so I can't tell you anything.
Yeah, actually, me neither. I mean, I'm aware of it. I know it's around.
Mm-hmm.
I know the one. I know the fairly recent one with Edward James Olmos because he
I absolutely adore
that praises.
That
and I'm
version.
like, all right, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I had a couple more on my mind while
beautiful. That's more than you said you had when we started.
Yeah. So there has been one BC character that I've been wanting to see in a video game.
Aquaman.
Not by itself. No, not Aquaman.
Wonder Twins?
Not the Wonder Twins.
Damn it, man.
The best superhero of all time
Uber dog.
Booster Gold.
Somehow I knew that was coming. Yeah,
because he is.
Yes, he is. He is. That's a funny character.
You could have him time travel around trying to fix the anomalies. Maybe have Blue Beetle show up every once in a while to be his sidekick. You would have a great little kind of time hopping, fun little game, and I think that'd be a pretty cool one to do.
It would.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would.
I feel like that's a horrible game in the making, but okay. Like it's gonna be too easy to screw that up. Not that it's a bad idea.
Hey,
it's just
don't step on his dream.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea.
Dream.
It's a good idea. It's just there's too many ways that could go wrong.
Oh heck yeah! All of these could go drastically wrong in the absolutely worst way. But that's the beauty of it.
To have those developers to take good care of it.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
But
what about you, Esteban? I think I've got another good one that I think you guys will like, but I'll let you.
Yeah. I got one that I'm gonna reach back. I don't know if there's ever been a game of this.
Mm-hmm.
It would be less actiony, kind of more puzzly. So if Telltale was still around, I would like to see their type of style applied to this.
Mm-hmm.
MacGyver.
They could do that. They could certainly do that. That would be right up.
I mean, not anymore. So maybe Don't Nod will do it.
Somebody, yeah, whoever the guys that co-founded Telltale, they could do that.
But yeah, that is very ripe for some good puzzles, some good adventure every once in a while. That is something I would definitely love to see. Maybe it's people like me who watched some of the older shows back in the day, but I look at it, I'm like, you know what? I would actually like to have that. Maybe, try to figure out how to get out of this place using only a paperclip and my,
That's right. Some baby wipes, a paperclip, and some bubble gum. There you go.
Yeah. It's a good combination of items that happen to be randomly lying around.
Exactly. So, Esteban, what do you think? You wanna try to throw your next one out there, or you want to take one more break?
No. You go ahead. You go ahead and do yours.
Oh, do mine? Oh, okay. We'll do this last one, and then we'll take another break because I've got a few more that'll blow your minds, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
But before we go, this one I think is absolutely perfect. That I'm very surprised that they haven't done. Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah.
It makes zero sense to me how campy that game is, how absolutely generic a lot of the action could be and a lot of the foes, and you could do a freaking Capcom brawler or a shooter with that game and it would be light years above half of the stuff that's released today and just play and be fun. It seems like a easy home run to me. That's why I was so surprised that they didn't take that on in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah, it'd be good as like maybe a top-down twin-stick shooter.
Yeah, exactly. Some easy little simple shooter, little bugs running around. I mean, what was the name of that? They kind of did a mock one with that little PlayStation Space Marine game. I can't even remember exactly what it was called.
I can't remember the name of it, but I know what
you know what I'm talking about. It was
Alienation. Is that the one you're talking about?
No, it's similar to that, but that's not the one. I can't remember the name of it, but it was recent, and because I had it on my Vita, my PS Vita, and it's gonna bother me, so I will look it up and try to get the freaking name of it after the break or something. But I'm telling you, Starship Troopers, it just makes sense. It just does.
I'm trying to even think has there not been a game? I feel like there really should have been.
That's what I'm saying. And the thing is if there should have been, we thought that there was, and the fact that we can't think of it is a testament to why there should be one.
There really should be, yeah.
You know what I mean?
One last thing before we go. This isn't an idea, but it's just something that I realize has been going on in Hollywood that's sort of like the reverse, where I feel like there's been movies that have been try to be essentially like fresh adaptations of a video game.
Uh-huh.
And there's one of them. I'm trying to look it up because I can't remember it, but there have been, like, I've noticed, like, the past 5 years or so, there have been movies that have been coming out where they're like action movies starring female protagonists, and for one reason or another, they all kind of remind me of Bayonetta. Now, it's not exactly the same in that they're not like witches or, have like magic powers with their hair, but they like might have magic powers with their mind, like Lucy, which was a movie starring Scarlett Johansson.
Mm-hmm.
Or they might be just like super badass people, like that one movie that I'm looking up right now that I can't remember, but it starred Selma Hayek.
I thought you were talking about Ghost in the Shell, also starring Scarlett Johansson.
Well, that's based on something already. And or like that movie where it's supposed to be them secret working for an organization, kind of like Bayonetta has to work for the devil to find out her stuff in the at least in the first game anyway. Kind of like how the plot is for Atomic Blonde, which is a movie that came out I think last year with Charlize Theron. What was that Selma Hayek movie though? That's the other one in this like trilogy. There are a whole bunch of.
I can't think of it. I can't think of it either.
Do you know what I'm talking about though?
I think so. Yes, and it's escaping me. I can't. Probably in part because I'm also trying to think of the stupid game that I was trying to remember.
Everly. Everly is what it was called.
What's it called?
Everly. Everly.
You sure that's what it's called?
Yeah, I'm looking right at it now. Picture of her and Selma Hayek holding a gun. Yeah. It's Come on, focus.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Do you remember seeing that, or not really seeing it, but like hearing of it?
Yes. I remember hearing it.
So like there was this movie, there was Atomic Blonde, like I think a year ago, and about 5 years ago, Lucy with Scarlett Johansson.
Yes. Yeah, there was there were every single big name female actress had to have that style movie around that time.
An action movie where they were like the action protagonists.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's like these are all like Bayonetta rips. Or at least like some kind of rip like that.
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah, because Bayonetta is way more left field than those movies. But yes, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, but it's still like, let's get a woman who's badass, make sure that she's not like objectified like by other people, just by the camera, and and make sure like she's the badass and she's got something for it. And you know what? I just remembered another one. There was another one I think this year that like flopped, but it was with Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
I want to say like Red. The word Red is coming to mind. No,
I think that was a different one. I don't think that was her. Damn, I could be wrong on that again.
Red Sparrow.
Yes, but that wasn't Jennifer Garner though, was it?
No, not Garner. Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Goodness
Jennifer
gracious.
Garner actually has done a few action movies.
She has. That's why I was trying to remember. That's why I was like, that wasn't Jennifer.
That's not the same thing. That's like her thing. That's like a thing that she does. That's like saying, "Oh, it's an action movie with Mila Jovovich." Like, no, she does a lot of those.
Yeah.
No, these are like actresses that like they're not really known for that, even though they can pull it off.
So they kind of stepped out of their cocoon, or I guess, or whatever, and they decided to do that actiony. I
mean, Charlize Theron also did Mad Max, and that's an action film, but like she's known for like even in that movie, she's like this really dramatic actor that can really give her all and all that kind of stuff, and and You know, all the other actresses do different things.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Well,
it's like
ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take one more break. On that note, we're going to take one more break, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to blow your ever-loving minds with my selections. Stick with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And if you were with us the previous two breaks, we covered quite a bit when it comes to licensed games. And we're kind of wrapping things up here, giving you the last little bits of our wish list for licensed games, for TV shows and movies that we are very surprised that either haven't been done at all or haven't been done in a while. And from my understanding, Shawn had an epiphany as we were talking, and he came up with one that he thinks will probably trump my picks. I doubt it, which is why I'm saving mine for last. So
we always gotta save the best for last, and as we know, BJ.
That's what I'm talking about, because I come with the gravy, baby. Go with it, Shawn. What you got for me?
Because I believe this movie came out earlier this year. Either this year or last year. I'm pretty sure it was this year.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very gaming heavy. Very nostalgia heavy.
Don't say what I think you're going to say.
You know what I'm about to say, BJ.
I know what you're going to say.
Go ahead and say it.
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One, baby.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how you could do that as a game, though.
So
the same way they did Street Fighter the movie, the game.
Oh, boom!
What if, like, instead of like maybe a full-fledged game with this follows storyline and everything else, because a lot of games are like this these days, just have more of a VR experience where you're able to experience these different games, these different franchises, and walk around, maybe feel these different items that are there in the shops, maybe go for a ride with a lot of these different vehicles on the same track. Like, just have that type of experience there. Just feel like you're
part of me. I think that would work, just mainly because I know now is the age where a lot of movie studios are experimenting with that, where a lot of the bigger movies, and a lot of times they only do this in select cities, but I've heard of a lot of movie studios giving a VR gaming studio a bit of change to have an experience while they're like screening the movie. So they'll invite people that are going to the movies. Oh yeah, I'm going to go see this game. Going to see this movie. Yeah, why don't you come and do our paranormal activity VR experience for like 15 minutes before you go see the movie or something.
Yeah,
I could see that happening with Ready Player One. That because is not too far fetched at all.
You know what they're doing with the playbills now, at least with the theater that I usually see the big blockbuster movies with.
Mm-hmm.
They have the app on your phone where you basically lay that playbill down. You just have that AR vision of it. Something will pop up if you put it on there. Maybe it's a scene from the movie playing out there.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or this other theater that I go to that just opened up, while you're waiting for the trailers or something like that, they'll say, okay, here's this online game you can play. Download this app, hold it up, and you can shoot spaceships or whatever. And maybe kind of incorporate something like that in some of the trailers and some of the previews. That way you can give people kind of that experience before they go in, or maybe have something like that after they get out. Maybe have kind of like, now you've seen the movie, here's how you can experience it.
Yes. I have seen studios kind of dip their toe into that realm. Yes, definitely with AR as well as VR. Definitely. I could see that, I guess. Yeah.
That's something that
one is kind of right for that.
Just to kind of think, it's a little bit different, a little bit more unorthodox.
Yeah. And Ready Player One kind of is ripe for that. And of course, and I guess the real thing would be, because of how much nostalgia and how much other licensed material was in that movie, how much of it they'd be able to get away with in a game without it being so expensive that they wouldn't be able to make any money off of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they sure as hell, I guess they didn't break the bank getting the licenses just for the images, but because they did it in like 2 or 1 second clips for most of the movie. But I don't know.
I actually have come up with 2 ideas.
Okay. Go for it. Yeah. Go for it.
Okay, now the first one's gonna be quick because it's more a joke than anything else.
Oh Lord!
But
are we ready for this? Do we need to pause?
The second one is more serious, so let's get the funnies out. Shawn Michaels the game. It's a beat 'em up / dating simulator, and you go around as the Heartbreak Kid, beating up random people on the street who remind you of the wrestlers in the WWE. But whenever you go up against the lady, you try to romance them.
And get beat up by the lady in return.
Perhaps. Now that I'm saying this out loud, there's a very, very good chance that I could just be talking about Super Seducer 3.
Are you suggesting that just walking down the street, if it's a guy, I grab him by the neck and fling him down to the ground, But if I see a lady, I just grab her and just lay her down for a nice little romantic.
I mean, as long as everyone's consenting, sure.
Yeah, a consentful grab. Yes. Press X for
You'll have hearts in their eyes. Yes. No, you just slam them on the ground. Equal opportunity.
Or if you really don't want to deal with them and you've got enough meter, then you can do sweet chin music and not even slam and just go.
There you go.
Yeah,
completely off the screen.
Okay, but second idea. I think I would like to see maybe like a reimagining or a reinterpretation from like a company like Campo Santo, the guys who did Firewatch, their interpretation of something like The Truman Show.
Ooh.
So you would have to play a character who, lives this sort of mundane life, but then you start questioning your choices in life and how you were led to the path that you're on now, until you start to realize that maybe the things around you aren't what they seem.
Kind of reminds me almost of the Stanley Parable.
Sure. It would be a lot more dramatic and serious than the Stanley Parable, which is, more of a comical thing. But yeah.
But yeah, in terms of gameplay, I could see that.
Okay. You dug to the bottom of the barrel with that one. That's good. I'm proud of you guys. I am proud of you guys. I'm glad I inspired you. I'm glad I inspired you. But to wrap this thing up, I've got 3, not necessarily blockbusters, but I've got 3 daggone hits that are going to blow core gamer and core nerd minds, sci-fi nerd minds, all over the universe. Okay? So I'm going to start with...
I'm holding my mind together.
That's right. Hold it in. So this one is going to be... I
always do this at 8:30.
So this first one on my list is probably one that not many people are going to really know a whole lot about, but it's a show that I think had a lot of potential and got canceled early, and because of that, the storyline just kind of floundered at the end. But I don't know if any of you guys remember this show, but it was called The 4400.
Yes.
It was kind of X-Files-y or whatever.
Yes.
And the last season or 2 was god awful because they did this weird time travel-y thing that is like the sign of a bad show anytime they decide to cure all evils with time travel. But the premise of the show basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shawn, because I'm trying to remember it all myself, was basically you had a number of people all across a number of, it wasn't all in the same time frame either, if I remember correctly, but a number of people basically disappeared. Right? So a lot of times people thought that they were aliens that came and basically took these people, right? And at a certain time, all of these people came back at the same time. It was like near Seattle or whatever. There was this big, huge, they thought it was a meteor at first, but it slowed down. It stopped. It hovered over like a lake near Seattle or whatever. And then when it disappeared or dissipated, 4,400 people were there. And all of these people were from various times. They weren't all taken at the same time, but they were all from different times, and they were all the exact same age as when they disappeared.
Yeah, it was over the past 50 years of history that they were picked up and and then they all kind of landed in the same time.
Right. So as time went along, I think each one of these people all ended up having some kind of ability to some sort. And the whole premise behind it was supposed to be, the way the show kind of ended up was that these 4,400 were given specific abilities so that they could use their ability to save the earth from impending doom, whether it was, climate control, climate change, or whatever it was that was going to basically end humanity or whatever. These people were given abilities to figure out how to save humanity from whatever that event was, right? And the way the show played out was almost like X-Files. They had two people that weren't part of the 4400, but they were related to at least one of the 4400 or something like that, right? So they were trying to figure out the mystery. They were trying to figure out why these people were taken, who they were taken by, why they had these powers, where all these people ended up going, because after a while they couldn't isolate them anymore, because they isolated them for a long time, and then they just legally couldn't keep these people from going back and taking on their old lives, or having a life anymore. Yeah. So they let them disperse all around the earth, and then of course everybody got scared of them, as they would on the X-Men or it's whatever, and they'd be like, oh, they have these powers, we can't trust them, they're dangerous, we got to do something about them. There was fear about them until they started learning. Yeah, until they started learning who they were, what they were for, that kind of thing, right? And I could see almost the same kind of company that you were talking about, Esteban, doing something, because I really think that show had a lot of potential. And I think there's a lot of, I guess, sci-fi shows that kind of fall into this category, where the story is a pretty good story, and maybe the actors and actresses weren't great, so it didn't really become a popular show, but the premise of the show was really good, or the story of the show was really good. I could see a lot of those kind of shows having a second life as this style of, or as a video game of some sort, that dig deeper into that storyline or continue the storyline in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Just because, the technology has gotten to a point where it's not all just great graphics in a shooter. You can have all different types of graphic styles, all different types of genres, mesh them, merge them, and then Firefly. Exactly. That's one of them. You could do something with a lot of those, not necessarily blockbuster sci-fi shows or shows of this sort, and continue the storyline, or even change the storyline a bit from canon and take it in a new direction and give it a new life. I really think a lot of those kind of shows could really blossom and really benefit from that kind of treatment.
I've never heard of this show before, but just based on your description alone, that's very interesting.
It was a pretty good show. Again, it was a pretty good show for like the first few seasons.
Yeah.
Once they started getting into the people from the future are the ones that took it, and then you're like, what the fuck? It was like the last season was garbage. It was absolutely ridiculous. And the reason why they did that was because they were told that they were going to get canceled, and they only had this amount of shows left. So they were like, oh, we got to wrap this up. And they just kind of rushed it, and it ended up being really bad. But if they had been given time to really flesh out that story and go about it, it had all the suspense of an X-Files. It had all the quirkiness, of an X-Files kind of show, but it still had its own lane. It wasn't X-Files, but it had similarities to it, and it had its own lane, and it had potential to be really good, and it just petered out.
Yeah.
So that was one.
Yeah.
So that was one. My other two are definitely a lot more well known.
Okay.
And you guys will know. Well, one of them, and one of them is kind of one that's very similar to 4400. Farscape.
Oh,
I've heard of that.
Kind of like Firefly. Farscape was another one that was a great sci-fi series. It had, Jim Henson Corporation. I freaking loved their monster making and everything. All those characters had so much life, so much history. There was so much in that storyline, and Farscape is just ripe for someone to take it and to expand it and go further with it. I mean, they made comic books out of it that did okay or whatever, but there's so much canon, and there's so much not necessarily history, but there's so much lore in that TV show that they could have expanded and gotten into, that I think it's another one of those, just like Firefly, that's absolutely ripe for a good meaty video game that you could explore and get into. Um, with so many different types of species and races and factions and types of ships, living spaceships, that you pilot and all other kinds of stuff. It's a very well crafted world that I think would do great as a video game.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And my very last one, much less sci-fi, and it blows my mind that this was never taken on. It's probably because of the freaking director. I got a feeling it's probably why. But Kill Bill.
Oh.
Why? That whole freaking franchise, Kill Bill, is just ripe for like a simple fighting game.
Wait, why
Even if it's side scrolling
because of Quentin Tarantino?
I've got a feeling that he's the reason why it wasn't done. Just because I have this nagging suspicion that Quentin Tarantino is the devil in disguise. That's just one of my things. I like some of the stuff that he does, but he has some of these choices and decisions, and sometimes when he opens his mouth, my head just cocks to the side and I go, what? Or what? He's one of those kind of people that you think he's cool, he'd be for everything, and then all of a sudden he says something that's just kind of left field that you're just like, hold up a sec. You know what I mean? That I've got this nagging suspicion that he might be the reason why. But to me, Kill Bill was one of those movies. I mean, it's very, in my mind, it would be very simple, almost like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. A side-scrolling Streets of Rage kind of game, maybe. It doesn't even have to be like a Tekken game where you've got each individual character that's fighting against each other. They could do that as well. But just the mere fact that the bride was a part of this group of assassins, and that they had all these missions before the Kill Bill movie, before those events happened, that you could have a very, very deep game. Even, it doesn't necessarily even have to be like the Hitman game, but you could almost even go in that style where you have multiple people as assassins doing hits or assassinations or whatever with those well-known characters from the movie. And all of it highlighted by whatever, I forget what the name of the guy who makes the sword that each one of them has or something like that. Each highlighted by those swords in that mechanic using the swords.
I think it was Hanzo something, but
yes, Hanzo sword. Yes, that's exactly what it was. But it just blows my mind that I'm sure somebody has asked, because you can't have a movie that big without somebody that has asked for the license. But it just seems like there has to be a game for it. You know what I mean?
Shawn,
so I have heard about this, and I did actually sit down and research it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
don't tell me there's already been one.
there was one in development before the movie was announced.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking all this up, and apparently it was reported by Vice. There's an article on it that I was looking at. Basically, it was going to be developed by Vivendi Games, and it had the backing of Quentin Tarantino on it.
Okay, so he's not as evil as I thought.
There was actually some gameplay footage. It was a hack and slash.
That works.
Video game, so you can look at some of the gameplay that was for that. But yeah, it was because Vivendi had just some troubling. It wasn't going through, and I actually take a look at it. It looks really good, at least from what I'm seeing. Because, but because of Vivendi or Universal Interactive or Black Label or any of the other,
entities that were involved,
right? Because of all that, it just went into development hell. But
that happens.
There's actually a movie licensed game from a Quentin Tarantino movie. There's a Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
I believe it. Yeah.
So
it wasn't very good, but yeah.
So Tarantino isn't against working on it. In fact, he was involved in the making of the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they did bring him in for that. So yeah, I was just looking at that. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Slash makes sense. You said you saw screenshots,
Gameplay footage,
gameplay footage,
like alpha footage of it.
I know it's on the cusp of there. Was it like a PS1 game or a PS2 game?
I'm trying to think. 2003. So it was PS2.
Two, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That would probably be around the time of Kill Bill Volume 2.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, because I think Volume 1 came out in like 99.
That was a little bit later than that.
Was it? I could be wrong.
I can't even remember nowadays.
I'm probably not going to know the year of a movie. You ask me a video game, it's a lot more likely.
But you feel me, right?
Yeah.
It seems amazing that even if that one did go into, gaming oblivion, that somebody else didn't think to say, oh, I have a different idea for Kill Bill that I'd love to try or something.
Yeah, like what you're saying, like essentially like a prequel.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
You could do it like a Hitman style.
And it wouldn't necessarily even have to be, Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, while all you're playing as is the bride. It could be something as goofy and as simple as a 16-bit, Scott Pilgrim versus the World style, over the top, pixelated brawler. You know what I mean? It could be something to that effect and still be fun.
They made a game of the Matrix back then, and that would have had similar ideas.
Yeah, that was another one that was on my list. I was like, they tried it, but it amazed me that they just couldn't quite get it there.
Yeah.
For more than just Enter the Matrix. I was just like, ugh. It has to. They could have or should have done more than just that.
That game, its biggest problem was that it just couldn't figure out how to meld together third person shooter and like hand-to-hand combat.
Right. It seemed as if they were a bit more ambitious than they really had the money for.
Yeah, and then I think they like no one had played Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap things up, I think that's probably a great list for all of these great developers that are out there looking for ideas to really marinate on, I think they have quite a list here that we've given them that they could really, really work from and give us plenty of money for coming up with. Wouldn't you agree, guys?
Yes, I want a residual check for my Nutty Professor Katamari Damacy idea.
Yes, that is definitely a good one. Yeah.
And I do mean any video game from a specific pornographic film.
Except for my Sasha Grey simulator.
You got the idea from me.
Oh, that's so vague. I will see you in court, sir.
Look, Esteban, you've got the Heartbreak Kid video game idea on lock. So, okay, I think you'll probably make millions off of that one alone. All right, give Shawn his credit. Oh, man. But, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for being with us tonight. If you weren't here for the whole thing, as usual, and correct me, guys, if I'm wrong, on Thursdays? Is that when we're doing it? On Thursdays, you'll be able to get the audio version of our podcast. Or you could, of course, go and watch our beautiful faces on the video feature that we have. It's around the same time, or is it right after we're done? I can't remember.
The audio is up on Wednesday nights, same time.
Yes.
And then on Thursday mornings, that's where you can catch the video version of this podcast on YouTube.
Yes. That's why I keep these guys around to remember stuff that I can't remember.
And we have, I think we can say this, right? We have an announcement about the audio version.
Yes, announcement.
It's official.
We are now on Spotify.
In your face. Ugh. Thank you.
So
yes,
that's arguably the best way now to get the podcast. Just go on Spotify, search for Shaded Pixels Podcasts, and you will find our feed there of all the episodes up until this point.
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to all the goodness that we have. What episode are we at right now? We're episode.
We are at 19, baby.
19. Woo! Goodness graciousness. We've got had that. I don't even know how many hours that is right about now. We've done some pretty long podcasts, but ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot of material.
The longest one.
That's a lot of material for you guys to go and download and listen to as you're driving, as you're feeding your kids, as you're spanking your kids, as you're just sitting around studying, as you're doing whatever it is that you're doing that requires my beautiful voice in the background. There's plenty of material there for you. But before we go, of course, we've got to do, as we usually do, let you guys know what we have on the pipeline. So on all those off hours, you'll have additional chances to listen, to read, and hear from each of us individually.
The rigmarole.
Yeah. Shawn, let the people know what you got coming and what you got out.
All right, so I am still working on some video game content. I'm still thinking about putting up stuff about television shows and movies. It's still in the works, still grinding. I am still continuing my Let's Play series of Murdered Soul Suspect. And of course, you can check out any of my information, youtube.com/Shawnathan Studios, Facebook at Shawnathan Studios, but on Twitter and on Twitch, it's at Little Big Camp.
Beautiful. Well said as always, Shawn. I'm proud of. Way to go. All right, Esteban, what you got for us? What you got?
Let's see. Video wise on youtube.com/Colorwind, we have Let's Plays and Let's Plays and Let's Plays. We have the continuing Let's Play of Alice Madness Returns. We are getting towards the end of that game. We have the continuing Let's Play of Sonic Adventure DX. That one is going to be done next week. I now know exactly. It's going to be next week. This week, we're doing the final campaign of E102 Gamma on that. That's the robot. And the finale will then be up next Friday. So that playthrough will be over. The Alice one, I still don't know when it's going to be over, but the next recording is the last chapter of the game, so it's going to be over very soon. Doing something slightly new. It's actually something I'm bringing back because I want to see if people want to be seeing this from me. We have the Arcade Contender coming back. I'm going to be playing some Tekken 7, going through arcade mode with that. That will go up tomorrow, so make sure you check that out.
Awesome.
I'm gonna try to start streaming again. I think I'm gonna try it on the weekends. I'm gonna see if maybe that schedule works. So this weekend, check out my Twitter at HeyColorWin to see what time I'll be streaming. I'm thinking probably around 5 or 6, but just check my Twitter to be sure. And on my blog, heycolorwin.wordpress.com, I'm still working on some reviews, so nothing yet. There might not even be a gaming landscape this week because I've only played one game. I just, for some reason, got stuck playing a lot of Tekken 7. Not just for recording, just on my own time, too.
Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
I went through the story mode, which I actually haven't gone through until right now, and, man, why is it so hard for fighting games to do story modes?
Because you've got so many characters and it's hard to, I don't know. It's one of those
Tekken
things.
7 ignores like most of them. Tekken 7 story mode has like only 7 and that game has like over 30 characters.
Well, yeah, because that's the only thing that makes Tekken what it is. Those 7 characters and the story that they have intertwined between those 7 characters. It's like all the rest of them are just there so that you can play as somebody else other than the 7 characters.
The framing device is with the journalist. There's a framing device with the journalist, and like the whole story is kind of told from his perspective.
As he goes after the King of the Fist tournament or whatever.
He doesn't fight at all.
He doesn't fight. He's supposed to be covering the tournament, though, right?
No. He's investigating the Mishimas.
Oh well, yeah, that's in part the same thing because they like sponsor the tournament, right?
They do. Here's a cool thing about Tekken 7 that I technically did not know about until I played through the story mode. Usually, you have the King of the Iron Fist tournament, right?
Right. Yeah.
And this one's supposed to be the King of the Iron Fist tournament 7, right?
Yeah.
Nope, gets canceled.
What? Oh my gosh! Then who do they fight?
It's just
Why are they fighting?
because the world is at war.
Oh, so because the world is at war, we fight each other with fists. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, okay, you're already finding the problems with the story. So
Knife to a gunfight, I get it.
It's actually weird because if Tekken 8 comes out, then it's going to be welcome to Tekken 8 where we have the King of the Iron Fist Tournament 7. Because it was canceled in this one. I don't know. Anyway, look, the game is still fun. It's just that the story mode is bullshit.
You can't win them all.
But I mean, other than that, that's pretty much it. Just follow me on all the socials at Hey Color One, except for Google Plus because it's going down.
Gone, yeah. Google Plus, bye bye. Google Plus.
Yeah.
Oh.
How about you?
All right. For myself, I'm going to try to stay on a schedule. I did actually get to stream last week on Wednesday night, so I'm going to try to. Yeah, I'm going to try to get back on that schedule Wednesday night. I have no clue what I'm going to play tomorrow. It'll probably either be NBA or maybe State of Decay 2. I don't know. I got a bunch of other new games that are sitting there that I might try to start or play or something like that. But for certain, I'm putting it on wax, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. My hip hop voice coming out. I'm putting this on wax right now. You heard it first, right here. World exclusive, 23,000. Red Dead Redemption 2 is going down. As soon as I get that game, I'm going to be all cowboying all over the place. I want that game. I'm going to get the game. I'm probably going to stream the game. I think. I hope. It just depends on, how everything around Bunny 3000 works out as usual. But yes, Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. I try to keep it around that time frame. I'll probably go for a few hours or whatever. Follow me anywhere there is social media except for Google Plus. Bunny 3000, BUNNEH 3000, all over the world, all on the internet. Search it, you'll find me. Whether it's articles, Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, all them jokers, that be me. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Shaded Pixels Podcast. Every single pixel, we breaking it down for you in a way that cannot be done anywhere else. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you guys for being here. We love you guys. We want to hear from you guys. And until next time, bye-bye.